it feels like no one really cares about this release other than independents or people in the mainstream media who are trying to weaponize information against their adversaries.
Right.
Like I'm not seeing like it's what's so strange to me, and maybe this is a lesson in human psychology for all of us. There's been outrage about the Epstein list for so many years, and there's been so many opportunities to release it, and they finally release a significant amount of information, and it's kind of like quote unquote crickets. You know, there's not a lot of response from the media and from people. And again, I know there's people online talking about it, but I guess I expected like the cavalry. I expected everybody on this to be like, hey, let's go. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to, move the needle, get people arrested, get people indicted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not really seeing a lot of that. I'm not. And I guess it's surprising to me. And I'm not sure if, people are just burnt out and don't seem to care anymore because, and this is the lesson in psychology, did they have enough time to process it? So when they actually were given the information, no one cared anymore? Is that what this is? Or like, I don't know. Or is it just marching orders from the media to suppress it? And maybe it's both. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know because maybe if all of this came out at once, then I think you'd have what Kurt Metzger pointed out recently, which would be true, is, he was saying if the average person, like the person going to Costco and buying bulk hot dogs and understood what these people were doing, they would drop everything and just turn into zombies trying to rip these people apart. Like if they had an accurate understanding of just the amount of cruelty some of these people have participated in. And again, even whether it's they directly participated or whether they knew about it and didn't do anything, the average person would have went a little insane if this hit them all at once. However, you slow drip it out year after year. You slowly story, where you build on it, and then it just people do build up some sort of tolerance to it in slow bits, and so that could be the play here. I heard a very interesting one as well, that had Trump done this day one into the office, it would have had a lot more of an impact instead of this runaround stuff where Bondi and Kash Patel were saying there's nothing to see here, right? And now obviously we're looking at it going, there was a lot to see actually, when you've got emails of Epstein saying he enjoys the torture videos and other people saying, please don't send me these videos anymore, I can't handle them. It's tough to know what the reaction would have been if this all came at once.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing this begs the question of a little bit now is kind of backing into what this all meant. What was Epstein's actual role? We know he was kind of an intermediary between doing illegal things governments couldn't do, like Iran-Contra, to just be an example to use, and then executing on those things, whether it's moving weapons, money, whatever it may be, drugs, honeypotting. So this kind of, to me, it kind of reopens that can of worms to be like, okay, what was he doing? Who was he working with?
Game of Thrones?
I only saw until, is it Jon Snow?
Yeah.
I saw when he got stabbed a bunch, and then I just had shit to do.
Okay.
I haven't seen since
So
then.
you know the character I'm going to mention. I don't know whether you'll remember him deeply, but do you remember Varys, the bald-headed eunuch? Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
That's who I think of Epstein as. If you think about Varys within that world, what he did, where he would just ally himself with whoever the big power brokers are, because you hear a lot of people. Yeah, obviously he had very deep ties with Israel and Mossad, like you were pointing out, ex-prime ministers of Israel going to his apartment, sneaking in with masks on their face and all of this kind of stuff.
Super normal
then
stuff.
Also, too, you look at his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, and her father, Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was deeply intertwined with Israel as well. I think there was 4 ex-prime ministers of Israel at Robert Maxwell's funeral, if I'm remembering that correctly. And it was very well known that Ghislaine Maxwell was trying to reestablish her father's influence network. But to the Varys analogy, this master of whispers, there's a certain point you reach in the world within these elite circles where secrets become a currency. and they
For
become
sure.
an extreme amount of leverage.
Yeah,
and then
power brokering through information for sure. Yeah,
And so I think that was his main aspect. But then you get it where too you've seen other people pointing out from these files connections to North Korean intelligence, to Chinese intelligence, and so it's just like Varys in Game of Thrones. It's what house is currently doing well. Who do I trade these secrets for in return for favors or influence? And I think that's more or less the role that he's played over time. But it is really interesting. One of the emails that I found where you go, how much influence did he have? Because on December 25th, 2018. His email, or he was emailing Larry Summers, who was the 8th director of National Economic Council with Obama. He served as the president of Harvard University. He was the Secretary of Treasury under Bill Clinton. And so Epstein was emailing him and said, being asked for 3 names to replace Mnuchin, who was the Treasury, the former Secretary of Treasury and an investment banker as well. So you're sitting there going, is Epstein giving names for who's going to serve as the Secretary of the Treasury? Like just how much
influence did he have? So one of the things that popped up from a 2020 FBI memo was, and it was from a confidential human source called the CHS. I don't know why you need to use an acronym. Basically claiming Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent. So it looks like the strongest ties would be to Mossad, and that he was trained under former Israeli PM Barak. It said that the connections to the CIA are thinner and more circumstantial. However, who released the information? So I still think you're getting this part of the deal, not the whole thing. You can't really put it all together because you need all the parts. You can't finish the puzzle if you don't have all the pieces. Kind of how I see it. But it looks like there was also some broader intelligence and elite connections to the MI6, which of course is in the UK, and that he had received over 7,000 wire transfers, some linked to arms dealers like Khashoggi. Connections with Alan Dershowitz. It's kind of interesting to see how he was all So and then you kind of go back and you think about you think about the connections with banks, and you think about how there was hundreds of millions of dollars. These guys have faced massive fines for their connection to Epstein. That couldn't have all just been honeypotting, especially when he's moving this kind of money for weapons. And like you said, you're power brokering in some fashion that seems to be in the intangible. And who was that large, maybe he was a fashion designer guy?
Les Wexner.
Gave up like basically complete control of his asset structure to Epstein. That made no sense at all when you're looking at that all play out.
He gave him power of attorney.
Yeah, which is wild.
So yeah, think about that. The billionaire founder of Victoria's Secret, gave Epstein complete control to do not just of his assets, but Epstein would have been able to do anything he wanted to. He could sign on legal documents as Les Wexner. You go, how many billionaires are giving, like most billionaires aren't even giving their wives that kind of access.
Absolutely not.
And so you go, how the heck is a guy like Epstein?
Yeah.
Unless whether it's blackmail or mutual alignment on certain.
Still weird. I think it's got to be some sort of blackmail, because why wouldn't you just control your own shit? Hey, man, we're on the same page. So you and I are going to go work towards an allied goal. I'm not going to be like, okay, so here's the keys to my bank. We're on the same team. I'm going to do it with you. We're good. So I imagine there was some sort of force. There's also some connection to Putin and Russia. And the argument they make is that because of the deep connections he had in foreign intelligence, that's how he was able to manage such a lenient 2008 plea deal. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is all, I guess, unfolding. I think, again, the worst thing for me is that I don't see how this turns into any direct accountability. That's what's hard for me. And I think, if I'm being perfectly honest, whether we get 6 million pages or 60 million pages, if he was deeply connected to these foreign intelligence networks, we're never going to get the real truth on that. I think it's just going to be pure speculation. I think the only thing you're going to see is governments try to create a case where they implicate their adversaries. but I don't think there's going to be anything too hard there. I think looking at these back end of these networks, I just don't think you ever get access to it. I don't think we'll ever actually see. But again, so I would say the biggest thing for me is no accountability still.